You're listening to Mammal Watching with Charles Foley and John Hall. You can find other episodes at mammalwatching.com/podcast.
Welcome to the Mammal Watching podcast with me, John Hall in New York.
And me, Charles Foley in Minneapolis. John, good to see you. How are you?
I'm okay, Charles. It's snowing here in New York, so it's a bit cold again. But otherwise, I'm surviving. How are you?
Ask me about cold, John. I think it's going to be below 15 degrees centigrade for the entire week this week. But anyway, a typical Minnesota winter, which is just fine, actually.
Yeah. And talking of the cold, right? You said you got this great story from Nunavut.
Yes, that's right. So I have a friend, and she has been a teacher up in Nunavut in the northern Canadian Arctic for many, many years. And actually, while we were having the mammal watching meeting, she had sent a photo through of a wolverine that had been hanging around the garbage area. So I asked her a little bit about this, and apparently they've been coming in. So I'll read what she said. They've been coming closer to town lately, not sure why. We had 3 wolves right in town a couple of weeks ago and 3 wolverines on the edge of town. I'm a little hesitant to ski my favorite route heading north, as there aren't many people out. I have a friend who was harassed by a wolverine when he was out fishing. It wouldn't leave him alone, and his rifle and quad were a bit of a distance away. He threw rocks at it, but it wasn't deterred. Finally, he threw his jacket, and it landed on top of the wolverine and spooked it, and it ran off. Another group of friends were out hiking one day, and a wolverine was heading towards them. Finally left them when they fired some warning shots. A few years back, there was a wolverine right in town trying to get some frozen fish that were stacked under a house, and the kids were outside playing. The grandfather ran to it and tried to chase it with his skidoo. The wolverine jumped up and bit his hand and wouldn't let go. The grandfather came in to pick up the student a week later or so and showed me his hand. Some nasty damage.
Wow.
So, isn't that crazy? I'd never heard of wolverines attacking people. Yes, I know they're big weasels and they've got a bit of a ferocious reputation, a bit like honey badgers. Yeah. But I didn't realize that they would actively sort of go after people and bite people, etc. So yeah, an eye-opener for me.
Oh, I've never heard of that either. I've seen film of them taking down caribou and things, so they would not be worried, I suppose, about attacking someone, but I'd never heard of anything. And even in those film of those places in Siberia where there's wolverines all over the place, but they seem quite, dare I say, friendly. But this is a different story here.
Right. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. No. Clearly they deserve their reputation.
Well, a lot of people want to see a wolverine outside of Finland and sort of see one in North America. So this might be the place. You can even get bitten by one if you're lucky. So
that's right. Walk along the main village, dangling fish out of your pocket or something. Well, maybe not your pocket, maybe your hand.
A small child on a rope. Oh, wow. That's a great story. Very cool.
Yeah. How about you, John?
Yeah, I'm good. Charles, as you know, we've been talking a lot about the future directions of mammal watching. And so I've been giving a bit of thought to that with your help. Thank you. And so just for people on the podcast who don't know, so mammalwatching.com's always been a website for 20 years now, but Mammal Watching Inc. is now a charity here in the US, a conservation charity with the idea that more people mammal watching is good for conservation. And so we've been thinking a bit about how to do that, how to raise money so we can do more of this to keep the website going, expand it, to get more people mammal watching, get the mammal watching into areas that will really benefit, and to make sure it's all ethical. That is all on paper sounds great, but it requires work, and that requires money. So we've been thinking a bit about that. If anyone's got ideas on things we can do and how to pay for them, even better, then I would love to hear from you. But there's a couple of things I wanted to plug. First, I'm helping with a couple of trips over the next year that I am always talking about on the website, but maybe people here don't know. One is there's a trip to Antarctica in a year's time. We have now about 20 mammal watchers signed up for that. It's going to be hopefully a fantastic trip. It's a bit longer than usual. It's just over 3 weeks. It's run by the British company Nature Trek. And we're going to spend time on South Georgia and the Falklands, as well as as well as around the peninsula. One of the good reasons about this trip, if you're a mammal watcher and you can afford it, is that because there are going to be so many of us on this boat, there's going to be a lot more eyes looking for things like some of the rare cetaceans. I think on a typical Antarctica trip, you'll have people interested in wildlife, but there won't be very many that are as keen as the people signed up for this trip. So a lot more eyes at all times on deck is going to mean we'll see more things. So I think that is a real bonus for this trip. So I'm super excited about that. And the other one is it's a trip to northeast Brazil that we're running at the very end of May, looking for some of the really rare and endemic primates up there. And there's a few like really cool, recently described porcupines as well, and a bunch of other things. So I think it's going to be quite a cool trip, and there's still 2 spots on that. So drop me a note. I'll put a link in the notes for this if you're interested. But there's a whole ton of other trips in my mind and on the calendar for the next couple of years. So I hope to be doing more of this. Obviously what I love to do. And I wanted to also give a shout out to our 2 new interns who are helping with the work of mammal watching, the vital work of mammal watching. Say thank you very much to Bruno Kovacs Gomez in Spain, who is so keen. He's a young guy, still at high school, but he's got a ton of ideas and he's going to be helping with social media and other things. He's talking about maybe organizing like a mammal TED talk in Spain and charging people to come in, and then we can all appear on video. I haven't told you yet, Charles, but I did say how good your Spanish is.
Oh dear.
So I love his enthusiasm and his ideas. And also to Ellen Linton, one of the younger contributors to the site. She writes fabulous trip reports. She has a great way with words. She's super keen. She's also busily converting her family of birders to mammal watchers one by one. She told me her brother, who is a birder, is now getting more interested in rodents. So Ellen is a Goodwill ambassador, and she's going to be helping with some of the ideas we have for the future, some of the more interesting things we might be doing, including getting together a list of lost mammals and advertising them on the site. Maybe there'll even be some prizes for people who find them, if we can find someone to donate them. But really putting a spotlight on things that I'm almost sure are still out there, but no scientist has seen for the last 50 or 100 years. But, we can find them as mammal watchers because we're going to these places and we know how to look for them. So all exciting stuff. And if you feel moved by all of this to want to support mammal watching and you haven't turned off already, then let me just plug the Buy Me a Coffee slot on the website where you can click online and very easily buy me one or several coffees. Thank you to several people who've done that. Quite a few people have done that, actually. It's very generous. There's a new feature on that which you won't know about, which is extremely exciting, I'm sure. You could become a regular member, contributing $5 a month. You'll become a lesser Grizzon member. For that, you'll be mentioned on the podcast. If you donate $10 a month, you become a greater capybara level. And with that, you can have a one-on-one call with me about anything mammal-related. How exciting is that? And if you're feeling really flush, you can become a giant pangolin member for $25 a month. You're one of the elite there. You can pretty much do whatever you want. I'm just your slave if you want to donate to that. So we might even go one higher. I was joking with Charles, Ultimate Okapi, where you win dinner with Charles Foley. But we'll see. And actually, Mark Boson, who's doing his big cat year, some of you might have seen, he is already supporting me at, I think, great giant pangolin level. He doesn't know he's a giant pangolin member yet, because I've only just introduced these, but I will break the good news to him. He's in his big cat year this year, which is, I guess we'll be hearing more about him later, and maybe in another episode he could even join for a few minutes. But he's off to a flying start, trying to see all the world's cats this year. He's got the lynx in Spain, and he just got caracal in South Africa. So it's going to be a lot of fun following his progress. All right, enough from me. Sorry about that. Charles, over to you.
Last time we did things a little differently. We did excerpts from the field, and this time it'll just be you and I interviewing each other. Me talking about a trip to southern Tanzania and you talking about a trip to Argentina and Chile.
It will be, but don't give up on us. If you want to go back to the usual format of guests, we will be having guests again at the next episode. But before we get started, Yannick O'Kelk, who is a friend from Australia, a great photographer, works in conservation, he had a good idea asking if we were open to other clips from the field because he enjoyed the Sulawesi podcast, as several people have told us. They liked all the sort of notes from the field and the recordings. So Yannick said, would you be open to playing other recordings from people who see interesting stuff and have got a microphone with them? And the answer is yes, we would. Of course, professional mega broadcasters like Charles and myself, we can't promise anything, but please do send through your clips, and we will consider whether they're of sufficient quality to air on this monumental podcast. I'm hoping Yannicka will send something through. Actually, he's off to see red pandas, I think, next month. But yeah, if you're out there and you're seeing good stuff and it's fun, please do record something and we'll try to play it. And it would be good to get to know you all a bit better as well by sharing it as well as hearing your experiences.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. So yeah, if you have an interesting clip or just the excitement in your voice when you're seeing a spectacular new mammal for you, do send it in.
Yeah, that excitement, that's the thing. That shaking adrenaline rush, nothing beats it. You're still basking in the glory of your Tanzania trip, I imagine.
Well, yes, Tanzania was good. So let me talk a little bit about this trip because it was an interesting one. There are a number of larger species of mammals in Tanzania, which I haven't seen yet. Plenty of smaller stuff I haven't seen yet, but not too many of the larger ones. And most of these were in southern Tanzania. So a couple of endemic primate species, there's a giant sengi, and of course the striped weasel. I decided I would organize a trip to go down to that area, short trip, 10 days or so. And I was joined on this by several friends, so Ian Thompson and Venkat Sankar, who are obviously well known in the mammal watching community. And then also some really good friends from Tanzania, and these were Dowdy and Truda Peterson. Now, the term legend sort of gets bandied about really easily, but Dowdy is a true legend in Tanzania. He and Truda, they're co-owners of Dorobo Safaris, which is one of the best safari companies in the country, in my opinion. And he has probably done more for conservation in Tanzania than any other individual I know. So an amazing character. And Dowdy, he's in his mid-70s now, but he's a complete action man. So even though he's got slight heart problems, both of his knees have been replaced, he's got some eye issues, he just still keeps on going, and he's up for going out and spending lots and lots of time in the field. So nice. When I mentioned that we were going to do this trip, he and Truda jumped on it right away. So that was all good. But there was a bit of an issue in that the trip was going to start on October 29th. And about a week before the trip started, Dowdy sent me a message and said, "Hey, Charles, do you know that that's election day?" And I didn't actually. But, I figured, hey, Tanzania, it's always been a fairly stable country. It's never really had any political violence and whatnot. So we said, it should be fine. Famous last words, eh? So for this trip, I was originally going to just drive myself, use my own vehicle, but I ended up contracting a guy who runs a safari company, and his name is Mansour Mohammed. And actually Tom Claude, who used to run Pictus Safaris, put me in touch with him. And he swore by him. He said he's great. And he runs a small safari company called African Pangolin Safaris, which really specializes in the south. And he was really keen to do this trip because he knew it would open up new opportunities for him. So we all arrive in Dar on the 29th, and we're staying at a hotel about 25 minutes west of the airport. And in the afternoon of election day, kind of all hell breaks loose. So we start hearing sort of multiple gunshots going off, and then there's loud explosions, which are basically tear gas canisters being exploded. There's stun guns going off. Occasionally, big booms, which were probably from petrol stations being set alight. And essentially what happened was that the ruling party's been in power for, well, over 60 years now. And all the opposition was in jail. And so they were the only ones running. And a lot of people, particularly the youth, didn't like this. And so they started demonstrating in the streets. And then the police came in really hard. And the government basically shut down the country, right? So all airports closed down, curfews in place, all petrol stations closed, no public transport available, roadblocks everywhere. all internet went off,
Internet,
right?
yeah.
So then all of a sudden you can't take money out of an ATM, you can't pay with credit card, etc. Right? So basically they just closed the whole place down for about 5 days, which is not the best when you're trying to actually run a safari crossing the country. So the first day, not much happened. And then second morning, the hotel was right next to a forest reserve called Pugu Forest Reserve, and that's where we were heading. So about 7:30, we went to the forest reserve because Dowdy, the intruder, wanted to do some bird watching. And there was a young guy standing over there, and he wouldn't open the gate, and he was looking very scared, but also not in any mood to sort of let us in. So Dowdy was talking to him for a while, and finally he calls up his boss, and then 20 minutes later his boss arrives. And his boss gets off this motorbike and walks up and says, "Dowdy, you remember me?" So you gave me my first pair of binoculars. So that sort of broke the ice. So then it's like, okay, well, how do we actually get into this place? Because we couldn't pay with cash, right? None of the places take cash anymore. Couldn't pay by credit card. So then the lady who ran the hotel that we were staying at, she said, okay, she would guarantee the payment. So we got in, but clearly what we wanted to do was go in at night, right? And the reason that we were so interested in this place was because it's one of the very few forests that has rondo galagos. Now, the rondo galago is a critically endangered bush baby, and it only occurs in 7 forests in Tanzania and very low populations as far as we know. And I'd never really found a place where you could see it. So I reached out to a Tanzanian academic at the University of Dar es Salaam, and he had been doing some studies on it. And so he very kindly arranged to have his field assistant come with us to try and find this animal. But of course, it's nocturnal, so we had to go out at night. And, there was a 6 p.m. curfew, etc. So I thought, they're just not going to allow us. But they said, okay, you can stay out until 8 p.m. Right. I said, great, fantastic. So that's what we did. We went walking, we thermaling, and it was actually surprisingly good given how close it is to Dar es Salaam. So we saw blue duikers, black and rufous elephant shrews, we saw four-toed elephant shrews, bushy-tailed mongoose. Oh, wow. This was all in space of a couple of hours. And then we found the bright eyes staring back at us and got the torch on it. And there, of course, there's this fantastic little rondo galago. It's a tiny little thing with a little bog brush tail, absolutely super. So we're really happy with that. And also saw Zanzibar galago, Garnet's galago, and had a really nice sighting of a striped leaf-nosed bat, the Macronicterus.
Oh, wow. Very cool.
Yeah, so those are really good. I'd seen it in Kenya a few weeks before, but it's the first time I'd seen it in Tanzania.
Oh, nice. So the Zanzibar galago, how different is that to the rondo?
It's a little bit bigger.
Right. You can
so all those dwarf galagos, they sort of look a little the same, but they've got different calls and a bit bigger, but also different behaviors. The Zanzibar galago is a real extrovert and constantly leaping around all over the place and drawing attention to itself.
Like you, Charles.
Exactly like me, John, yeah. So anyway, we get back to the hotel and we figure, okay, well, what do we do? So we say, right, next morning, there's going to be a curfew till 6. We'll just try and get on the road and get as far away from Dar es Salaam as possible, trying to make it up to the Dzungwas. So we leave at 6, road totally empty. We don't see anyone for half an hour until we get onto the main road linking Dar es Salaam with the capital Dodoma. And then we see our first people. And unfortunately, they're all field force unit members, which are the paramilitary arm of the police. And these are not people that you mess with. So Mahmoud, the driver, drives slowly up to them, and one of the officers comes up to us, pointing the tear gas gun at us. And anyway, Mahmoud goes out and talks to one and then another and another. And we're sitting there for 10 minutes and thinking, this is probably it. The trip's going to end here. And then Mahmoud comes back, jumps in the car, starts it, and drives on. And we said, well, what do you say? He said, oh, I just said that I've with these tourists, and they're all very old, and they don't have a place to stay. So, so anyway, we went along the road, and it was just the most bizarre thing because every single vehicle was off the road. There was no buses, no trucks, No private vehicles, no pedestrians, nothing at all. And then we had a bit of a problem in that Mahmoud hadn't been able to fill up the vehicle with diesel, and we didn't have enough to reach Udzungwa, and all of the fuel stations were closed. Yeah. So what we did is we stopped at some trucks that were parked because they'd all been ordered off the road, and we just asked if we could buy some diesel off them. So we just siphoned diesel out of their fuel containers and then filled up. So then we had 1,000 kilometers worth of diesel in the vehicle. So that was useful. And we did pretty well until we got close to Morogoro. And then we ran into what I was a bit worried about, which is another group of FFU and who were blocking the street. And they had just turned around another tourist vehicle. So we drive up and one of them walks up to the car and says, "You know, you're not supposed to be on the road." And Mahmoud just gives him a big smile and says, "We've got permission." And the officer said, "Oh, all right then." Gives Mahmoud a fist bump and lets us through.
This Mahmoud, he's the man. Wow.
He is definitely the man. So that was slightly crazy, I must admit. And then we made it to the Udzungwas. We stayed at Hondo Hondo, which I know you stayed at when you were there. It's a really nice camp. And what's great about Hondo Hondo is that just from the gardens, you can see a whole bunch of the mammals from that area. So the Udzungwa red colobus, which is an endemic. You've got the Angolan black and white colobus, blue monkeys, red duikers. And then at night, we would see Sunni, Zanzibar galagos again, and a palm civet just wandering around the lodge.
Oh, nice.
So really good stuff over there. And one of the afternoons we went to a nearby forest called Magombera, and there we found another species of dwarf galago, the Mozambique dwarf galago, which again was a new species for me. And this was interesting because you asked about the behavior of how Zanzibar galago was different to Rondo, and this animal is highly cryptic. They just would always stay in the shadows and move really slowly around, etc. It's very interesting to see the behavioral differences. So anyway, that was pretty cool. And then Ian and Venkat, they went into the park to see the Sanjay mangabe, and again, another endemic, and also the East African tree hyrax. And I was trying to find the gray-faced elephant shrew, right? So this is one of the giant elephant shrews, only discovered about 20 years ago. So I reached out to one of the researchers who discovered it. And again, he helped me providing a field assistant to go in the field. And we spent most of the day in the field and really saw very little sign. We saw one track which looked to be active. But on the way down, the field assistant said, "Well, I have seen this animal before at one of the other local hotels in the area." So we then went over there and we talked to the manager of the hotel, and she gave us permission. She said, yes, they do see it there, gave us permission to hang around. And then one of the cleaning ladies said, "Oh, I see it outside room 32 or 42 or something like that." So we basically spent an evening and a morning standing outside room 42. Didn't see it, but I'm sure that if you go over there, you could find it. And I think it's actually more common on the other side of the mountain. So that's one I will need to go back and find. So then we moved on to Iringa, and this was now 5 days in, and we thought, things are surely, gone back to normal. But we contacted our friend David Moya in Iringa, and he runs a lodge over there, and he said, things are still really pretty hairy over here. There were 2 people that had been shot outside or close to the lodge the night before, and he said, just sort of keep your heads down a bit. But anyway, we made it over there, and he's got a lovely place. It's about 40 acres, Miombo forest, river running through it. And we saw some good stuff, red rock rat and some dormice, etc. And he also has over there some of the elephantalus elephant shrews. These are the really small elephant shrews. And we didn't see it on this trip, but I went back to his place a couple of weeks later. And you can bring them in by pishing, which is, making the birders. Yes, the psh, 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 psh. And we went out, he did this, and within like 30 seconds, an elephant shrew sticks its snout out.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah,
how cool is that?
So definitely something to try in the future with those little ones.
Would that work with the others, do you think? That's fascinating.
I see no reason why it shouldn't. And I ended up getting some really good pictures of it as a result. Cool. Fantastic.
Oh, nice one, Charles. Another discovery. Great.
Another discovery, yeah.
Wow.
So the next day we ended up going, and by now things had basically cleared up. The trucks were starting to go on the road again. And we were going up to a farm that David owns up in the Kipunji Plateau. And this is called Igumbilo Farm. And it's pretty high up. It's about 2,700 meters. And when you get there, this place, it looks just like Scotland, right? It just looks like Scottish heather, except it's sort of full of orchids. Yeah. And we were going over here for a couple of reasons. One, when I'd been previously, I'd seen a lot of rodents over there, which of course Venkat was really interested in. But more importantly, wherever you get rodents, you also get striped weasels, which is turning into a real nemesis animal for me. So this is a small black and white weasel, and it's a rodent hunter. It probably spends most of its time underground, following along rodent tunnels, chasing rodents or hunting rodents. And it's got a large distribution, but there are very few places where people see them regularly. And this is one. David has seen it several times over there. So that's what we're trying for. And the vegetation is very low, and David burned some of it as well to encourage orchid growth. And we saw an incredible amount of rodents over there. So 4 dendromus species. So these are the little ones. They look a little bit like a harvest mouse, and they've got a little black line down their back. Sort of 3 Optimus species. We saw Grammomis thicket rats, Lopheromis, which is a dark brown rodent, beautiful, beautiful animal. The little striped rhabdomis mice, a mus. We saw 2 species of gerbils. We saw a Zolotomis. This thing was it was astonishing how much we were seeing.
Venkat,
and of course, Venkat
is 7th heaven.
Oh, yes, probably 8th heaven. And the thing about Venkat is that, I mean, he's always been really good in the field, but I think he's actually getting better. I think after his big California year, he's just really honed his skills. And so the speed with which he gets on these things, so of course we're thermaling, and almost all of these we'd see just with thermals. So see it in the thermal and then get the light onto it, and then bang, within a second, he's on it, and he's telling you which species it is and what it used to be called and what it's likely to be, the name's likely to be changed to, etc. So he's studied up on all those things, and he's got his photographic memory, which really helps. So we had a great time up over there, and probably could have spent another day because we were still seeing rodents. In the end, we saw 18 species of rodent or shrew in 3 days, right? Crazy. Really, really, really crazy. But of course, I didn't see a striped weasel. So we will have to go back over there at some point.
I want to go back there now so much after that rodent list. I was very jealous when I heard the numbers being bandied around. So I'm glad you didn't get the striped weasel, because you'll be tempted back there.
We will negotiate with David and see if we can spend a bit more time on the farm. So from there, we went to the final place, Mount Rungwe. And here we were looking for Kipunji, which again, another monkey that only been discovered fairly recently. And I'd always been led to believe it's actually quite difficult to see, but in fact, it's relatively straightforward. You just have to sort of show up at one of the ranger posts on the slopes of Mount Rungwe. And so a couple of people had written in the trip report. So it was Alex Schouten and Jeanette Den Hertog. And they had gone specifically to look for it. And then they wrote a detailed list of instructions on how to find it. So we used the local tour operator that they recommended. And it's really pretty easy. We went in the afternoon, didn't see it, but the next morning, they're just pretty much hanging around the ranger post. Oh, really? And we saw it within about half an hour. And they're quite shy, so it's difficult to get good pictures of them. But they're almost a sort of cross between, well, they are sort of genetically a sort of cross between a baboon and a mangabe. So they're quite big and fantastic looking beasts. And we got a really nice sighting of a big male. So that was super. And you also see they've got a very fluffy version of the Angolan black and white colobus over there. That was nice to see. And then at night, there's another species of dwarf galago. It's currently called the Rungwe galago, so it's a technically undescribed species. And then we also saw Heinz pouched rats, the BMEs, which pleased Venkat no end. Yeah. And they also, over there, they've got this gorgeous squirrel called the red and black bush squirrel, which goes by the fantastic Latin name of Paraceros lucifer. So that's, again, it's quite common. And again, fairly easy to see. So yeah, a good trip. I think we saw over 70 species, and I saw many, many lifers. I mean, mostly rodents, but some of the big ones.
Yeah.
And so I would highly recommend it. I know most people, when they go to Tanzania, they will do the Northern Safari Circuit. But in the south, we saw 13 species of primate. And if you were to stop in Mikumi for a night, you would pick up Galagos senegalensis as well. And if you were to stop in Zanzibar afterwards, you get the Zanzibar red colobus as well. So you could see 15 primates pretty reliably on a trip in southern Tanzania. So yeah, I recommend it. Good area and fun trip.
It sounds incredible. Yeah, I was very envious, like I said, when you came back and you saw so much. It does sound remarkably successful, and especially given all that was happening. I mean, congratulations to you all for pulling it off, and to Mahmoud, perhaps more than anyone. But that's amazing to have navigated all those potential obstacles and come out on top. It seems to,
yes. Yeah. Whether it was wise to do so or not is a different matter, but we won't go there. Anyway, speaking of wisdom, John, you spent quite a bit of time in Argentina last year. Can you tell us a little bit about that trip?
Yeah, I mean, it sounds very boring in comparison to yours. There was no insurrection, no real problems, but it was a very nice trip. It was really inspired by my love of leopard seals. So a leopard seal is one of it was number 4 most wanted mammal on my list of most wanted mammals, and it's been on there ever since I started that stupid list, which is now dictating just about everything I think about. I've missed them in Australia a couple of times, once by mishearing where they were in Tasmania and going to the wrong place, because they're vagrant animals, kind of appear in South Africa and Australia from time to time, but really they were thought only to live on the Antarctic Peninsula, and that's where they were. You had to go there to see them. And as I just said, I'm going to Antarctica in a year, so I thought, I'm going to see a leopard seal. But then I started stressing about it, of course, thinking, what if I don't see one there? And then it wasn't just about missing the seal, it was about having that whole stress ruining my trip. Because I know myself, and you won't be surprised to hear, Charles, that I figured out that I would be a nervous wreck until I actually saw one. And I'd start by just being a little bit concerned, but after about 5 or 6 days, I'd be miserable and depressed and snapping at Katie, who's coming with me. So I thought, if I could just see one before, I could relax and actually enjoy the rest of the trip in Antarctica and just be a happier sailor there. And then Marcelo Gavensky, who is our friend in Argentina, he was on this podcast. He got in touch about a year ago and said, John, I've just found out there's this resident population of leopard seals around some glaciers on Tierra del Fuego on the Chilean side, this place called Parry Fjord. The scientists have been looking at them for about 10 years. Are you interested in going? I think we could set up a trip. So, of course, I said yes. And I went with a mammal-watching friend, Mike Richardson, who's written a bunch of reports on the site, and a buddy of mine who I've known since I was 7 years old from the UK, Sean. And Sean had been to Argentina with me a year ago with Marcelo, and he was keen. He loved it. He was keen to go back. So there we were, and we designed the trip really around getting down to Tierra del Fuego and these seals. We stopped on the way down in a couple of sort of spectacular areas of Patagonia, bordering the Argentinian side of Torres del Paine, or Torres del Paine, essentially. So magnificent scenery. Mammals were a bit thin on the ground there. Tourists were not thin on the ground. It's been a long time since I've been around so many tourists. But we picked up a couple of things, and we missed a couple of things we were looking for. Wolfson's Descacha, we wanted to see it. This place called El Chalten. And there is a colony there, but they're obviously very rare because no one in the town had ever seen a Vizcacha. Marcelo had been talking to a researcher who said, they live on these cliffs, and you look in the cracks and you might see them if you scan in the early morning, and they come out to sunbathe. And then the researcher got onto Marcelo days before we arrived saying, I've just come back from my regular survey and I didn't find any Vizcachas. So they may have gone. So we tried for those and missed them, but we got a couple of other things, a pichi and a tucutuco, like a sort of South American gopher. But then it was leopard seal time, and this really was one of my favorite ever trips I think I've ever taken, because we had to fly to Ushuaia, which in itself was exciting. It's the gateway to Antarctica, and it's one of those sort of towns I've always wondered about and longed to visit. From there, we drove pretty much 8 hours, mainly on the dirt, into Chile. we crossed a super remote border crossing where they may get 3 or 4 vehicles a day going through, I think. And so they've got a lot of time to really quiz us about what we're doing and confiscate all our fruit and vegetables, which we just bought. I knew we didn't need as many eggs, but we lost all those. And then 3 hours on the other side of the border, we get to this area on the edge of the sort of Darwin's Glacier in this place called Parry Fjord. Absolutely incredible scenery. And we checked into a little cabin on a farm there. And the next morning we went to meet our boatman. And our boatman, he was the epitome of a salty sea dog. He just, he spent all his life in that fjord. He was in his 60s, I think, fishing. And a few years ago, he switched to tourism. I think he just realized it's such a beautiful place. And I think he was so proud and valued so much the nature of where he lives. He wanted to share it with people. So he's running these day trips now for tourists, I think mainly Chilean tourists who come over who want to explore this area. So you meet this guy at 7:00 and he gets in his pickup truck and he drives us around the corner of the beach to his boat. We had to drive into the ocean at one point or into the fjord. So how this truck is still going, I don't know. It can't be very good for it. Get on his little kind of fishing boat. It's like maybe takes 12 people. And we start chugging down this fjord for 3 hours towards where these 3 glaciers are, where the leopard seals hang out. And he's known about these seals ever since he started visiting when he was 16. So I guess that would be in the early 1980s. But scientists only found out a few years ago, and they've been monitoring them now, and they realize I think there's about 20 at least resident animals there. They've given them numbers. They hang out in front of 3 glaciers. So much other similar habitat. In Patagonia and Tierra del Fuego, there are probably other glaciers where there are leopard seals living because they need ice to breed on, I think, and just to live on. So, in front of a glacier, there's plenty of ice. So we chug off, for the morning down this fjord, winding to the arms of the fjord, incredible snow-capped mountains and forest, and just mind-blowingly beautiful. Get to the main glacier where he usually sees them, and Marcelo straight away spots one bobbing in the water, which we didn't see. So I instantly, this is going to be easy. I knew this would be fine, just relaxed. And we chug up to the actual edge of the ice floe because there's usually 1 or 2 hanging out on the little icebergs. There aren't any. So undeterred, Juan, the boatman, ties up the boat to these rocks at the end of the bay, and we climb onto the rocks and then kind of scramble up the cliffs to get a vantage point over all the ice, and we still can't see any leopard seals. He's busily taking selfies because he's only been up there once in 40 years, and it's like incredible. There's pictures online now I can share with this, but honestly, the scenery was out of this world. It really was. We did see a leopard seal distantly swimming around in the water, and so I could tick it off, but it wasn't the view I'd expected and hoped. Mm-hmm. So back in the boat, and we're chugging off to there were another 2 glaciers there where he sees the leopard seals sometimes. Meanwhile, while he's been driving the boat, he's made a fresh chicken casserole for us to have for lunch from scratch. He was peeling the potatoes and everything on his boat and cooking it on a little gas stove. It's delicious food, although by this point I was too stressed to really enjoy it. And we get towards the second glacier, a smaller glacier, where there are often seals but fewer. And Marcelo shouts, we got one floating on a chunk of ice in open water. And it's 4 meters long. People know what they look like, I'm sure, but everyone says reptilian, and they really are. They've got this head like a snake. They look like Voldemort, I think, from Harry Potter. And it was just lounging on a big chunk of ice, and we could drive the boat right round it. You could have leant out and touched it at times. Wasn't at all bothered by us. It occasionally kind of cocked its head and looked at us in a supercilious way. So we went round and round the iceberg and took about 1,000 photos. And then left it be. But just absolutely breathtaking to see such a great animal so close and in such a great surroundings with no one else around. So yeah, one of the best days ever. Carried on going, saw some elephant seals and some albatross in the fjord. And then the next day, we'd actually booked the boat for 2 days, just in case, which I think on reflection now is a good idea. But the weather's usually fine. But the next day, the weather was actually windy. One of the first trips he'd cancelled in months. And so he actually cancelled our trip on the second day. But nothing would have beaten the first day anyway, so that was fine. And we went back to Ushuaia. And, so pleased with how great the day was, but Ushuaia really reinforced that. Because we're back there and there are lots and lots of tourists around, many of whom are probably off to Antarctica. And we took a trip the next morning. We had a spare day now. So we did a cruise along the Beagle Channel. There was a chance for some good cetaceans. And Mike had never seen South American sea lion, which we were going to see. And so on a boat with like 100 tourists for 4 hours. I'm sure they were very nice, but it was so annoying to be around them after the day before. They were just yelling out all these questions to each other. There were cormorants on land. Are they penguins? They were talking for about 15 minutes, asking every guide whether they were penguins or cormorants. We saw both, but they weren't penguins, right? Even I knew that. And then there's just like this kind of rage war between the people on the inside and the people on the outside. So the people on the inside who got on quickly had gotten all the best window seats. Then when we stopped to look at something, everyone who can't see through the window clearly gets out to stand on the deck or along the sides of the boat, and they're blocking all the people who are inside who don't want to have to leave their nice seat. So they're banging on the glass, telling people to move, and the people on the outside aren't moving. And it was just horrendous. So, I was very lucky to get my leopard seal the way we did. And then after that, the other place I should mention on this trip was we went to northern Patagonia to a place called Bariloche. And there's a place that Martin Royal visited there called Puerto Blest. And it's another incredibly beautiful place. It's a beautiful lake in Patagonian forest. And there's a really lovely hotel there in the national park. And you can only reach this hotel by boat. It takes about an hour from Bariloche to reach this place. And it reminds me a bit of one of those kind of classical lodges you get in some of the US national parks, like the Yosemite Lodge or the Yellowstone Lodge in its design and its feel, but just much quieter. And the reason we wanted to visit here was this forest is really good for small mammals. Martin saw a bunch of cool things there, including a shore opossum, which would be a new family for me. So we spent 3 nights there enjoying the hotel, enjoying the view, and enjoying all the small mammals at night. It's really pristine forest, and something about it is just really good for the small stuff. So Monito del Monte, they're one of the grandmothers of all marsupials, is a species I'd seen on Chiloé Island, but they were really common. We were seeing, at least 5 to 10 a night, with incredible eye shine, which I hadn't realized before. They were very easy to see. I think we saw another 4 small mammal species. Several long-tailed pygmy rice rats. We saw a very, very cool Valdivian long-clawed mole vole or mouse. They have different names, but it's like a cross between a gopher and a mouse and a vole. Tiny little eyes. They're very fossorial. Venkat would absolutely love to see one of these, I'm sure. Very, very shy because we kind of saw all of the animal, but in about 10 different pieces. So I have to create a jigsaw in my mind. But yeah, really nice location. So I'm hoping to go back there next year before or after Antarctica to try again. They have codcod there, the small cat. There was a picture they showed me in the hotel of a codcod in the boiler room. Just moved in for the winter because it was cold. So it's like an iPhone picture on macro. That's a really lovely spot that I recommend. Be very suitable for anyone to go there. Bring your family. They'll still be talking to you at the end of it, even if it's a small mammal trip.
Right.
So Argentina, what a country. Marcelo, it was great to see him. Such a nice guy, such a good guide. So yeah, a lot of fun.
Sounds fantastic. I have to admit, when you first mentioned the fact that there were leopard seals on the sort of mainland, it sounded so strange. And then to go there and get these incredible photos, it's amazing. It really is amazing. And I get it about the wanting to take the pressure off of seeing it in Antarctica, because I know people who have been to Antarctica. I think Cheryl Antonucci went and missed them over there. Yeah, you'd have been a nervous wreck if you'd done that trip and not seen them. So that sounds absolutely fantastic, and what a lovely part of the world that's for sure.
Yeah, but even there, this by Juan the boatman's caravan, there was talk about a hotel being built, and they're going to open some kind of sailing school or something crazy, and nowhere's safe. So if you want to go now. Yeah, it's not easy to get to, but it's really worth it.
Right. And it does make you wonder how many other parts of Chile in the fjords are full of absolutely fantastic animals.
For sure.
So I think it's a highly unexplored country.
Indeed.
Okay, John. Well, great talking to you. And I know that you are off to Guatemala soon to do another Bat Fest. And I will be crawling around the depths of Minnesota winter looking for more wolves and lynxes up north. And by the way, the last time I went up north, I did see 2 lynx. So there is a mother and a young being seen currently on the Gunflint Trail. So if anyone wants to try and see a lynx, this is your time. So we will catch up again on our adventures soon.
We will. Look at this. So you've got Charles Foley now can give you tips on where to see a lynx and a wolverine, 2 of America's best and most wanted carnivores. So now's the moment. Get on to Charles and get instructions for these 2 animals. Lovely to talk to you, Charles. Great to catch up. And I'll see you next month.
Absolutely. Take care, John.
You've been listening to Mammal Watching with Charles Foley and John Hall. You can find other episodes at mammalwatching.com/podcast.